I'm back, and I've been chilling with this thing for a while. Problem is, since I like to collect games, I never want to get rid of the console boxes. But this is what this behemoth came in. Oh, I know. I'll turn it into a table. I am a goddamn genius. The PS5, one of the most hyped consoles in recent memory, and the various stock shortages show. Now, I'm not sure if it's because I was in Australia, but as the intro shown, I ordered mine relatively late and still got mine day one. On launch day, I got Spider-Man Miles Morales, Call of Duty Cold War, and Sackboy the Big Adventure, while a week later picking up Dirt 5 and Demon's Souls. I got some extra accessories along with it as well. The launch week of the PS5, I ended up spending $1,500 on stuff, not even including the new 4K TV I picked up as well. Now, I wasn't going to talk about this console until later in the year, but since I'm seeing more and more stock being available so people can actually buy it now, I feel like I need to say, this console's far from perfect. Before you hit that add to cart button, ask yourself, why am I buying this? Are you buying this console to experience next gen? Well, most games at launch, I would say, don't really showcase next gen gaming. Yeah, the games load so much faster, but is waiting 1 minute for a game to load really that bad when you have the world's greatest time waster by your side at all times? And ray tracing, like, it's cool, but devs have gotten so good at shadow maps and reflections that is it really needed? All I can say about this console now the hype has worn off on me is it still worth it? Big. No, in all seriousness, I loved the look of this console when it first was announced. It was big, it was futuristic, it didn't blend in the background, it had the V-like design. The problem is, it needs to be in a really good position for it to look good. And after it sits in your game room and you start to see it at more and more angles, all looking 10 times worse than the original face on. Like, from the side, it's just a white sheet of paper, and in landscape, it just looks awkward. And that glossy middle, hope you like cleaning your console every time you want to flex it to your friends. Most of the time, I like the full stock look of consoles. Even when buying old consoles, I tend to go for the original designs. But I feel like with this console, I want to customize it, change things up a bit, and thankfully it's really easy to do with it. Why is the power button and eject button so goddamn close? When it's slightly dark, which it should be to get the ideal picture from your TV, it isn't rare I accidentally eject the disc instead of turning off the console. And the button doesn't even work, you gotta hold it for it to actually turn off. Sony knew this would be an issue, so people trying to eject the disc wouldn't turn off the console. They also still have that stupid PlayStation beep noise when you turn on the console. It's like, jeez, at least give us the option to turn it off. I hate the feeling when everyone is asleep, the house is silent, and then the stupid beep noise echoes throughout the house like a goddamn bomb landed on the roof. Okay, let's step back a bit, to a time where I actually thought the PS5 was a worthy purchase. First time me feeling the DualSense, oh man, this is the greatest controller. As you know, I owned both PS5 and Xbox Series X. And the deciding factor on what console to buy cross-platform games on is honestly the DualSense controller. I would say the majority of the DualSense features are pretty overhyped or pretty underused, like the haptic rumble, the microphone, the touchpad, the motion controls, or just ported from the DualShock 4 or just uninterested in gameplay. The real reason this thing is in the top 10 list of inventions humans have ever made is the adaptive triggers. This is truly a game changer. It really adds to the gameplay. Take Call of Duty. Different guns bounce the triggers up and down differently, and all guns have that tactile click to them, making shooting off single shots with a handgun all the more satisfying. Dirt 5 is where I felt, yeah, this is truly amazing. When you slide around in gravel or transition from dirt to tarmac, you can really feel the changes in the triggers, making it harder to brake on rough surfaces, making roads feel so much smoother to drive on. I am a little worried that later down the line this feature will be underused like the touchpad in the PS4, but with Hitman also using the tactical gun feel, as well as upcoming games like Ratchet & Clank and Deathloop having some pretty cool trigger effects planned, it seems like this will be the next analog triggers. Man, if Xbox released a new Elite controller with these trigger effects plans, I think it will be the perfect controller. Didn't mean to sound like an Xbox fanboy, I was referring more to the Elite controller's interchangeable sticks than back buttons. Oh my god, the PS5 is gonna have a new UI? I've never been so hyped for an interface ever. Man, I hope it's a mix between the PS3 UI and the PS4. Oh, what's that? No pixels left untouched compared to the PS4 UI? Oh my god, what does it look like? Oh, It's just a PS4 UI with no themes and a new tab. At least the stories in a separate app. Oh, and a static image when you hover over a game. Imagine how cool it would be if they brought back the little PS3 game movies. How about taking the one thing I like about the Xbox UI and have groups come up in separate tabs which you can rearrange. And a card system, like, good idea, like a really good idea. So many times I'm like, what should I do next in the game? Especially in sandbox games. I end up just dicking around and then quitting. This gives my little moments of, I want to play this game for 10 minutes, an actual purpose. The problem is the lack of customization. Like, only sometimes trophies come up in a card instead of activities. Why not just have a button that I can switch between the two? Games. The reason you buy a new console for. I swear the PS5 doesn't really seem like a worthy purchase at the moment. Every game I own can be played on last gen systems, besides with Demon's Souls, which is a pretty niche game most people would pass off because of its infamous difficulty level. The games don't even look that much better on PS5. And as for better frame rates, yeah, 60 FPS is good, and if you have a 120Hz display, which most high-end TVs do now, some games even support 120 FPS. But if you're like me and went for a mid-range 100Hz display, well, that's too bad, you're stuck at 60. At least from my knowledge, you can't play games at an FPS that matches your refresh rate. It's either 60 or 120. There's no in-between. While it's cool to have most PS4 games work on PS5, giving people a bit more to play without forking over more money. Also, not to sound like an Xbox fanboy, since a quick glance at my room will clearly tell you I'm not, on the Xbox Series X, you can play a ton of Xbox 360 games, and a couple of Xbox games, at increased resolutions and sometimes even increased frame rates. PlayStation seems to have no intention of trying to preserve their legacy, which is arguably better than Xbox. Also, before you bring up PlayStation Now, it's not available in Australia, so it doesn't count. This is actually why I bought the Xbox Series X as well, since I love the PS3 Xbox 360 generation of games, and I know the PS3 is impossible to play on newer hardware. So yeah, both new consoles don't have many games to it, but at least the Xbox can play older games, and is focusing on expanding the library. PS5 has a meltdown when you try and play a PS4 game, or trying to transfer online saves, and have a hard drive to store all those old games on. It just seems to give you an error message saying they can't install, even though they're all installed. So with the PS5, I got another DualSense, which you already know how I feel about that thing. But also got a PS5 camera and a headset. Both to make my PSVR experience better, because that thing running on a base model PS4 has some issues. Thought having a wireless headset for the VR would remove some of the cables attempting to strangle me, and having the PS5 camera not only let me play the VR on a much more powerful console, but an increased resolution might help me with my biggest issue with the PSVR. Randomly thinking I'm reflecting from a fridge or light in another room is my headset, causing the entire room to freak out. Now, I'm not going to show up my VR again in this room for a demonstration on how I found out the new camera wasn't somehow compatible with the headset, but it wasn't compatible with the headset. Yes, the camera with the ability to detect your position in a room and even crop out the background at 720p is not compatible with a device that needs constant tracking of your head so it doesn't fly off your body. Instead, you have to send PlayStation your serial number from your VR processing unit, apply for a free adapter, get a vague email saying it's been sent with no tracking information, and wait for a random duration amount of time. I ordered mine in December, I only found out there was a delay in an FAQ message board of the adapter, and even with that delay, I should have bloody gotten it by now. With the PS5 now out in the wild and the hype has kinda died down, well, at least for me, I feel more accurate in my feelings with the console now, and I have to come to realize it's a console that plays games, and games are the reason you buy the console. Looking at 2021 lists of exclusive next-gen games, I might come back to this after new features and hopefully 3D audio is implemented, or maybe some sort of backwards compatible game library. I'm just honestly happy if they put PS1 back on this thing. Mark this day, every 1st of February, for whatever reason, I decided to come back to the PS5 and review its year. Oh wait, February is actually perfect, because if I did November when it launched, the holiday games wouldn't be out. I'm a goddamn genius!